Before I begin, I want to tell you a little bit about how I'm feeling. Let me begin by acknowledging that we didn't really hit a 6 in the last elections. We didn't do as well as we expected, and I get the sense, I now understand what it feels like when you go to some of your AGMs with bad news. The recently held elections have made their point. We need to have the foresight and humility to accept the messages being expressed to us without resorting to the usual excuses. A political party's strength lies in the voice of those it represents. We will listen to those voices. The Congress Party has long prided itself in this very ability and has used it to rise from adversity time and time again. We will renew ourselves and will fight strong and confident in order to protect the values of tolerance and compassion that are the essence of India. You are the stakeholders of the Congress Party, and our bonds with you go back a long, long time. They go back to 1931, when Mahatma Gandhi, our leader, addressed Picky at your 4th annual general meeting. We have charted the growth of our nation side by side. You understand the global economic environment well. Listening to your voice and heeding it is imperative. Over the last few months, many of you have spared time to come and meet with me. You've discussed your views with me, and for this, I'm very grateful. I'm in complete agreement with the need for the regulatory system to be rapidly and radically organized. Frankly, there are absolutely no excuses for the length of time required. Absolutely no excuses for the length of time required to clear some of these projects. You struggle in your work, and it is not acceptable that projects take long periods of time to be passed. We're a fast-moving economy. We cannot allow you to be held back by slow decision-making. Accountability has to be clear, it has to be fixed, and it has to be time-bound. The Cabinet Committee on Investment and the Project Monitoring Group are a recognition of the need to speed up these clearances. Some 300 projects with an investment of over 5 lakh crores, about 5% of GDP, have been cleared. Sectors affected by delays in clearances, such as power, petroleum and mining, have been the biggest beneficiaries of this focused approach. Of course, many projects are still stuck, some for good reason and some for no good reason at all. However, much of the information about these cleared projects remains obscured from the public domain. Unfortunately, good news about this government doesn't seem to sell newspapers these days. Many of you expressed your frustration with environmental clearances that are delaying projects unduly. There is excessive administrative and judicial discretion. The loopholes are so big that you can drive a truck through some of them. Environmental and social damage must be avoided, but decisions must also be transparent, timely, and fair. Accessing land is difficult, and it's time-consuming. It's a struggle. The black market in land has got to go. We need to build a robust and open real estate market so that businesses, especially small startups, have affordable access to land. The UPA government is considering a natural resource investment SPV. The idea is to obtain all clearances before auctioning projects to private players. This is a powerful and innovative idea. The biggest issue today is corruption. And corruption is bleeding our people dry. It is an unacceptable burden on the people of our nation. We must fight corruption with all our strength, all our determination. Recently, we have been able to ensure that convicted criminals are kept out of Parliament. I also got to learn a lesson. I learned that it is not polite to ask for ordinances to be torn up and thrown into the dustbin. This week we took a huge step, a massive step. We passed the Lokpal bill. But as I have said on numerous occasions, this is not about one bill. It is about providing this country an entire framework to fight corruption. The Congress party has developed this framework. It is in Parliament. It is waiting to be passed in Parliament. And it has been waiting to be passed in Parliament for some time now. There are a number of bills. There are a number of revolutionary bills that would seriously impact corruption in this country. I'm going to tell you about two of them. The amendment to the Prevention of Corruption Act will protect honest officers who today are crushed. It will protect honest officers and be much more effective against those who are corrupt. And my personal favorite, what I call the RTI of governance, the Grievance Redressal Bill. This will ensure that every citizen has the right to timely delivery of goods and services by their government. It includes a mechanism to redress their grievances in the event of any lapse. This bill has the potential to completely transform how our government interfaces with us. Now, I've said this many times, these bills are sitting in Parliament. The framework is sitting in Parliament, we have provided it. We got together to pass the Lokpal bill. We can get together to pass these other bills. And this will be a massive step against corruption in this country. It will be transformative. Our government gets a lot of criticism. But I want to point out one thing. That our government has done more to combat corruption than any other government. The single biggest step, transformatory step that we took, called the right to information, which gave power to people, gave them information, is what has transformed the entire landscape. It has completely changed the discussion in government and in the country. And frankly, very few governments have the courage to take a decision like the RTI. Because this decision has rendered our own processes more transparent, has opened us to scrutiny. I'm proud to say that the RTI has shown all concerned the writing on the wall. And in some cases, it has shown them the wall of Tihar jail. I would now like to talk to you about some key policy areas. We desperately need a better knowledge and innovation system. We need you to increase investment in education and R&D. Most importantly, we need to rid ourselves of the idea that academia and industry are separate silos. We need to drastically upgrade the skill level of our people and simplify all our processes. India has the brightest youngsters in the world. But let me be blunt. Our education system does not do them justice. There's been a massive scaling up of investment in education and training. But we need to do much more. This is the land that produced Buddha, Kabir, Tagore, and Ramanujan. We have to produce many more world-class scientists, artists, and philosophers. Over the last decade, we have achieved the fastest economic growth in the history of our country. Despite global headwinds, Indian industry has sustained growth because of the energy of our business community. The political stability and rational policy environment provided by our governments also made this possible. We believe that economic prosperity must include every single person. Poverty is neither befitting of human dignity, nor is it conducive to good business. I would like to state clearly, and I've said it earlier in a meeting, I would like to state clearly that poverty cannot be fought without growth. You absolutely 100% need growth to fight poverty. There's absolutely no confusion in my mind about this. India is a system, there is a business engine, and there are people. You have to empower the business engine, and you have to empower the people. It is a partnership. Maintaining robust growth has enabled the UPA government to invest in people. In 10 years, and this is a huge achievement which is not spoken about much, but in 10 years, almost a third of India's poor people have come out of poverty. They have risen above the poverty line. Now there is a view that our investments in food security, employment guarantee and rural development are a drag on economic growth. I don't believe that there is such a trade-off. I don't believe there is a trade-off between investments in the social sector and in economic growth. For me, it is today's investments in people that create tomorrow's markets. And it is today's markets that allow us to invest in our people's future. A mindset revolution is the fuel for economic growth. Today's self-help groups have shattered the hold of money lending. They have enabled millions of women to seek credit to finance their aspirations. They are the new age customers for our banks. Women now believe that credit is their right, and they see it as an opportunity. Such mindset changes are the results of years of sustained political effort, years of investment in people, in their education, in their health, in rural infrastructure, and in job creation. The most important thing that we have to do is to create fulfilling and rewarding jobs for our youngsters. We have this huge energy, and we have to get them connected to the global market. Those who are poor, those who belong to the middle class, and those among the 700 million people who are above the poverty line but below the middle class threshold. These are the craftsmen who build this country. We need to connect them to the global markets. India must become the global leader in manufacturing. This has to be one of our core missions. Let's target growing the manufacturing sector to 25% of GDP, generating 100 million new jobs in the next decade. I sincerely believe that we can do this. We're a young country, we can do this. The dramatic improvement we need in productivity demands that we provide the right enabling environment. This will require the political will to take difficult decisions. Difficult decisions on labor laws. Old labor laws have forced businesses to use contract labor. As you know, they are often underpaid and unprotected. India needs a modern and flexible labor market where labor has a fair share and is protected by international labor standards. We must reform the power sector and ensure that businesses have reliable and affordable access to power. While absorbing the latest technologies from around the world, Indian manufacturing must also be built on Indian patents. The politics of this country is changing, and the levels of transparency are increasing. So we need to provide you a framework of which to work.
I could now... No, I'm sorry, please, we are going in a very disciplined way here. Everyone would like to ask a question, but we are going to use our time for our past presidents. And if I might now ask Harsh Mariwala, head of Marico, to ask a question.
Yeah, my question to you, Rahul, is environment is very, very important. We all understand the importance of environment, and we need to protect environment. But at the same time, environment is also used as a source of blocking competition or for MC. And I like your words on corruption and growth and all that, but in that context, how do we ensure that the industry doesn't suffer because of environmental issues?
Well, rent seeking and blocking competition using the environment is absolutely wrong, and one must stop it. In terms of protecting the environment, one cannot allow wholesale plunder of the environment. So there is a balance between what is needed to be done with regards to the environment and what is needed to be done with regards to our natural resources. And it is possible to carve out a clear line. There is also the idea of environmental damage that is not recoverable. And there is a difference between environmental damage that is recoverable and environmental damage that is not recoverable. So for example, if you damage the Himalayas, you destroy the Himalayas, that is not recoverable. But there are other aspects of the environment where you can go in, you can sustainably do things, and you can actually recover the damage. So I think in areas which are absolutely critical with regards to environmental damage, we need to be careful. But we can chart out a path that helps our industry actually grow. Look, we need raw materials to grow, so we have to get it. But we cannot do it by destroying our environment. We have to do it by being careful about our environment. So there's a middle path. I do feel that one can be more aggressive than we are currently being. That's my view.
Well, that was a tough question, I must say, but I think you answered that very well. I think we too in industry believe that where environment degradation can have rules where you can actually repair the damage, there is reason to allow us to go ahead.
Can I just say one last point? The real issue, frankly, in all these things, whether it's environment, whether it's land acquisition, it's arbitrary power. So if you create a rules framework and you take away arbitrary power, a lot of these problems will be mitigated. That's basically the issue. And we talk, the biggest problem in this country is absolute arbitrary power. And we do not provide rules and structures to manage people's expectations, to manage the environment. The environment minister or the chief minister of a state can take any decision he wants on anything. And that's, if we want to build a modern country, that's what we have to change. We have to start building rules and structures. Now, one can argue about whether those rules and structures are the precise rules and structures that one wants. That's a question of legislation. But the problem you actually face is complete arbitrary power at all levels of the system. That's the problem you're facing. Sorry.
And you're so right, because we've gone from what were a go-go sort of period where anything went to a no-go period as a repercussion where nothing was permitted. And really what you're talking about is that we have to bring back that balance and ensure that the institutions that make sure that we have that balance are actually in place.
Short point, what has actually happened is a dramatic increase in transparency. And we have to get used to the new paradigm. There is a new paradigm. The RTI has completely changed the paradigm. And we have to get used to the new paradigm. And the only way to get used to the new paradigm is to start building structures and move away from this arbitrary idea that the chief minister can do everything he wants, the environment minister can do anything he wants. Sorry.
I think it is really an interesting perspective, which should suggest that we can move ahead with a new rules-bound, transparent system. If I might now ask Rajan Bharti Mithil to ask a question.
Mr. Gandhi, welcome to FICCI. Thank you. Thank you for sparing time. I heard your speech with rapt attention. I can clearly say your heart is in the right position and place. I hope the government is listening as well to what you're saying. I can see information technology has played a great role in Brand India. In fact, it's really the engine of growth, employment, and of course, it's become a brand synonymous with India as we go out. But lately, we are seeing that once countries like US, Europe are actually becoming now a hindering block for our growth to happen. I would want your views as to how you personally look at it, and corollary to that is really the telecom. Because if IT has to grow, telecom of the country has to grow. And I can tell you, coming from telecom, it has been in ICU for a long time. And I think it can move out fairly quickly if there's a level playing field, if the regulators are on it, rather than some decisions being made, which again will be arbitrary and will go back to the ICU. It has been a great success story, so I seek your views and indulgence probably on this.
You know, the big change that has come over the last 20, 30 years is that national borders cannot stop value. Value just sneaks through national borders. So if you're looking at it in the medium to long term, the United States or England or these other countries can do whatever they want. But if India actually has value, value will go right through their borders. It has the capability to do that. So what we should do, in the short term we have to manage this. In the short term we have to have engagement with the Americans, have engagement with the Europeans. But the real answer to this is to completely strengthen our IT industry, to strengthen companies like Infosys, to actually start building, frankly, the real powerhouses like Google and these other companies in this country. So it's very difficult today to stop movement of ideas. It's very difficult to stop value. So I don't see it as a long-term problem as long as we focus down and unleash your energy to build some of these systems in India. Move up the value chain. In the short term, of course, one has to deal with Americans and try and improve the situation.
Okay, if I might now ask Harshpati Singhania to ask a question.
Rahul ji, it was encouraging to hear your comments on business and the larger environment. In your remarks, you talked about the importance of human capital. And I'd like to ask you that while education is certainly a key necessity, how do we distinguish between education and employability, skills development? So we are educating people, but we have a whole lot of people who are educated or sort of what we say graduates but not fully employed. So could you amplify on this thing, because you talked a lot about creating jobs, and particularly in manufacturing and other areas where we find on the one hand we have this oxymoron, we have people, on the other hand we can't find the right people. Thank you.
Well, I said in my speech, I sort of implied in my speech, that we view education and industry in two separate silos. If you look at if you look at a modern university or you look at a modern education system, it's essentially a network. It's a network that connects industry, connects government, connects NGOs, connects students connects finance within the university. If you look at most of our universities, and some of our universities are very, very good, and they're, our IITs and other institutions are exceptional, but they don't have the level of networking that modern knowledge systems require. So the first thing is, start bringing in industry, start bringing in government, start bringing in these ideas into these knowledge spaces. Today, what role does industry have in the education system? What role does industry have in our higher education system? There's a disconnect. Would you agree with that?
Not entirely, but
Yeah. But there's a disconnect. So I would say bring those things together. That's at the university level. The single biggest problem as far as education is concerned is access. Just increase the access to education. We can do that with technology. Modern technology is a huge, very powerful tool to do that. I think what we need to do, frankly, is in the 80s, we took the telecom center, the telecom structure, and we blew it up. We just created massive access. We need to think in those terms. Today, we have a very, very concentrated higher education system. We have tremendous value in the IITs and the IIMs. But frankly, this value is not being utilized. It's locked in these institutions. So we need to unlock that. In terms of primary education, we've done a lot. Enrollment has gone up. But there's a lot that needs to be done in terms of teachers, in terms of the quality of the teachers, the quality of the connect between teachers and students. But broadly speaking, we have to completely reinvent the way we think about education. We're not going to be able to do this by using the same old tools, the same old systems. And a lot of it has to do with opening up access. with bringing in people into these systems, bringing in ideas from business into the system, asking you what should happen in our education system. Those are the type of things.
In fact, we do have many of our members who are supporting through CSR activities, education institutions, and some that are looking to reinvent it as well. And this is a direction which, as you rightly point out, industry would absolutely like to see an opening up in. We are absolutely out of time now, so I'm going to ask Sid Birla to do a vote of thanks. And thank you so much for being so patient.